Mandy Moore, you play Rebecca Pearson on This Is Us. There's so much that we need to talk about this character and the journey that you've been on in season two. But I want to go straight to this question that you probably get every day of your life. Does it ever get really tiring just having to cry and make people cry every single episode?
It's still sort of hard to wrap my head around the fact that that's sort of what the show has kind of become in a sense, or at least like what it's become known for. It's daunting, certainly, to cry. I feel like this season definitely put me through my paces. Like, it was challenging, especially that latter half of the season. Yeah, a lot. But I kind of was braced and ready for it because I knew that season two was really going to tackle that, big underlying question of how Jack passes away. And so I knew that particular episode and subsequently, the funeral and how the family sort of picks up the pieces moving forward after that traumatic event. It's yeah, I don't know if you can make it through an episode of our show without us crying on set or people crying at home. We're lots of people feeling all their feelings.
No, I just want to know, does the crew cry? Because you're saying the cast is crying.
No, sometimes the crew does cry. You'll see our boom operator Aaron in between takes wiping tears away. I think it really sort of boils down to what we're shooting. And some of those more I remember people were really into the big long fight scene that Milo and I had for the last episode of season one where we're screaming at each other. It was everybody was kind of on edge and really felt that. And I think some of these other more traumatic and upsetting moments in this past season that people were it's hard not to be affected by it. We all feel like we're in this together, and it's super grounded, real life material. So I think that people are able to, in the moment, immediately relate it back to their own lives.
Yeah, that's, I think, the most critical part, because the show has really profoundly touched a lot of people. It's about universal themes like love and loss and family. We all have that in our lives. And this show really seems to bring it out for many of us. Do you get a lot of that kind of reaction on the street, people that you meet every day about telling you about, this show has made me realize something else in my own life and things like that?
Yeah, I feel like it brings about conversations between people that maybe wouldn't necessarily occur. At least the show helps foster those conversations. It's really humbling. I've never been a part of something that people have responded to in quite this way before. And I think all of us in the cast really feel that way. It's never really said in passing, oh, I love your show. People want to say I reconnected with my stepfather, or it made me stop and call my parents and talk to them about something that I hadn't before, or just say how much I appreciate them. It feels weightier, I guess, in that sense.
Now, you play Rebecca in both kind of around your age and then an older version of the character. Do you do anything different to prepare for the older Rebecca?
Well, I usually have a lot more time to prepare because it's 3.5 or 4 hours of going through hair and makeup. So I definitely feel like I have a proper amount of time to focus and think about what we're shooting, because most of the time that I'm present day, there's something dramatic is happening. I'm either being confronted by my adult child for keeping him from his biological child his entire life at the Thanksgiving dinner table, or his father has just passed away, the biological father, and I feel tremendous guilt that they never had the relationship they should have. So it's I feel like there's always something really heavy going on when I'm in old age makeup. And I just feel like she's a fundamentally broken woman, even 20 years on after losing her husband. But I don't know. I felt daunted by it, I think, initially at first, because I'm 34, and so the idea of imagining 30 plus years of life that I haven't lived, and I don't have children, I don't have grandchildren, I haven't lost a child, all of these fundamental pieces of who this woman is. I didn't have a real point of reference, but I kind of have let myself off the hook, realizing that the story is going to continue to expand, and this universe is going to expand hopefully as the show goes on. And that, to me, it's more about figuring out the fundamentals of who she is and what the sort of like bigger picture ideas of what she's gone through. And it also helps that like, the writing is so incredible. It's so elevated. And I'm, especially present day, I'm always working with, Sterling or Justin and Chrissy, and everybody's so magnificent on the show. It's like they show up and bring their A game, and you have no choice but to sort of follow suit and try and stay in step with them, I guess.
Yeah. And, a lot of the cast had a really big season in season 2. Like a lot of it was kind of elevated and the ante was upped, so to speak.
Yeah.
Especially for your character. We were all really excited about this Super Bowl episode. We were going to get some answers about, obviously, a huge part of this whole family's life. And I think the episode didn't disappoint. For me, it didn't. And it didn't disappoint for your character, especially, don't you think? Like, it was a big challenge, I think, that you had to take on, especially, for example, the vending machine scene where Rebecca's learning about what's actually happened so suddenly. So talk us through the challenges of doing that, because it would have been hard.
It was hard. I mean, I felt a tremendous amount of responsibility because that episode obviously was answering a lot of questions that people had about the entire like series of the show. And what sort of, what this family's life hinges upon. Like Dan always references like its life before Jack and after Jack. And so like it was a pivotal episode, and I thought it was written so exquisitely. I thought Dan knocked it out of the park. He always knew this is how he wanted it to unfold. He told us very early on, this is how Jack passes away. And obviously the details sort of took shape as the season progressed and as we got a little closer to the episode. But I love that what ultimately unfolds was so traumatic, but because it wasn't like cinematic in that typical way that I think people were expecting, like for him to die in a fire or, in some sort of like, in some like cinematically catastrophic way, it was because it was so quiet and it happened off screen. I felt it was so much more like fundamentally effective. But I've said this before, I didn't like I loved that candy bar moment and like the utter disbelief and shock that this doctor was so outright like inappropriate. How could he not remember? We had just been in the room with him. He honestly didn't remember me or my husband. Like, this is awful. You should be telling the right family this news. And I am like hot stepping it back into the room to sort of tell Jack, like, it is the furthest thing from my brain that what he is, it doesn't even remotely begin to compute. And I didn't know that Milo was actually going to be in there for the first take. We had shot the scene in the episode where he and I are sitting kind of side by side on the bed after the doctor leaves and talking about, what happened and how we're going to sort of piece together our life after this fire and this, entirely traumatic event. And then I shot the candy bar scene with the doctor. And then I was in a dark room by myself, like listening to music, sort of getting into that frame of mind. And I was ready to go. And I remember like turning the corner, like walking into the room, and I had prepared myself fully for seeing an empty hospital bed. But then there was Milo, like laying on the bed with his shirt off and like the paddles sort of next to him on the bed. And I was frozen. And just like I was in the moment, and it was like I was able to sort of like flash through everything that I read in the script of like them getting married. Now I'm gonna cry. Like them getting married and them like having in the hospital having the babies and like all of these like just unbelievably beautiful, like the pillars of what their life was together. And I was like, and then I looked on the bed and there's Milo. It was just, and thinking back through, the 30 some odd episodes that we had built this life and the life of this couple together, it definitely helped me get there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely rooting for you to get that Emmy nomination this year. But we're curious, if you are nominated, you have to submit an episode. Do you have one in mind?
I mean, I guess I would probably do the Super Bowl episode just because I feel like the episode itself is so strong, just across the board. I feel like it's moving and it's emotional, and the pace of the episode. And I get to sort of live in 2 decades. get a little bit of the older Rebecca just to show people like, hey, remember I'm in like 50 years of this woman. And then and then obviously the stuff in like the late 90s and losing him. I also really love the episode, I think it's 11, with the therapy scene with everybody. I feel like it's such a great moment. I don't know. I mean, but I probably would do the Super Bowl, I guess. It's with this show, it's like, it's so hard because I feel like they do such an incredible job of letting every single character, all, 7 or 8 of us in this ensemble, like have a moment and have an episode. And I'm excited for the whole cast because, like you said, I think it was such a strong year for everyone across the board. Like, especially the 5 like core family members, I'm just like have my fingers crossed.
Well, we at Gold Derby all think that all 5 of you will be nominated this year. We don't want to jinx it, but it's looking pretty good. And so we're going to hopefully see you at the Emmys later this year. But speaking of the cast, you recently won the SAG Ensemble Prize, which is so cool. Like, so many people were so thrilled about that win because this is such an ensemble, right? And you guys were so enthusiastic.
I think you're the most enthusiastic cast that won that night.
We've ever seen. And you can just tell that you really actually genuinely like each other, which is so refreshing. So talk us through that really special night.
I mean, I still like have the widest smile on my face thinking about it because like we were there as an entire cast, like every version. We had the 10-year-olds, we had the teenagers, we had Miguel, we had John Huertas, we had like our show truly is an ensemble and it wouldn't work without absolutely everybody. And the fact that we could all be there together to celebrate, and it wasn't just it wasn't just the usual suspects of us that kind of like go to these award shows together, was so fantastic. And I think it was especially fun for Sterling not to like speak out of turn because he's so used to winning and being on that stage. I think it's emotional to be able to like share that moment with all of us. And I know he's sort of like, he more or less said that like, I'm so happy we all get to experience this together. What he's so used to at this point.
Yeah.
I think was just unbelievable.
Well, I'll just jump in, Amanda, if you don't mind, because it's a question that Amanda always says, we should ask this, and we never do.
It's a joke.
You've just opened the door because we always want to say, are you people just freaking sick of Sterling K. Brown winning all these awards?
Never. He's deserved each and every one. He's the best. Like, I am the biggest Sterling champion and fan. We all are. And it would be different if he weren't so flippin' like cool too. Like,
yeah.
Like, honestly, Sterling for president. That's what I think. Like, he should run, but he just like, he's so made for this stage. He's made to obviously be in the position that he's in as an actor and as a performer, but like as a human, as a man, like when he gets on stage and like he's so present and comfortable and like always has a message to deliver. Like he's born to be here, and I love how well he represents himself and therefore like our show too. He's the best ambassador for all of us.
Okay. Is there anyone in the cast in specific, and you can pick yourself, that you would like to see win an Emmy for season 2?
I want to see Justin win.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I think he's so like flippin' talented, and I think that people sort of see his character and he's so easily like discounted and dismissed because he makes it look so easy. But I think that's a testament to just how good he is. And I loved the evolution of his character. That, the trilogy of episodes this year that we did, 1, 2, and 3, like his episode remains one of my favorites of the entire show, the entire series.
Amazing.
It was so incredible, and I love him. I mean, I love everybody, but just as a human, I feel like everybody in their own right has sort of been acknowledged, and I feel like it's his turn now.
Yeah, we said the same thing to him a few weeks ago. And speaking of Justin, Amanda and I always do this when we have interviews together, and we ask Justin this question. We want to ask you the same question to finish.
Hopefully for some more competition.
Yeah.
Let's competition.
Let's compete with each other and see who can give us the best answer. Okay. So like, we know that you can't spoil what's going to happen in season 3 because then you'll get fired and that wouldn't be great. Yeah. So are you able to maybe give us like 3 words to describe what you know, what is in store for Rebecca in season 3 of This Is Us?
In 3 words?
Yeah, 3 special words, and we'll just put them on social media and let them fly.
Let them fly. All I sort of know at this point is like early days courtship.
Oof,
Ooh.
that's exciting.
I think he might have won.
I like it. I like it.
I'm just telling you the truth of what I know.
Well, I think we might leave it there. Thank you, Mandy. We have plenty more to talk about, but we'll leave it for next time. Thank you so much for your time. We really, really loved watching you on season 2, and good luck for all the awards that come your way this year.
I appreciate the time, guys. Thanks for chatting.